Operating system structure. The objective of this lesson is to compare and contrast different operating system structuring techniques. These techniques include simple and monolithic structure, layered structure, microkernel approach, modular structuring approach, and hybrid strategies to structure and design operating systems. Operating system is a very large and complex software. It is composed of number of small programs. These programs are written by a team of developers over a long period of time. Like any other software, operating system code can be structured in different ways. Following are some of the commonly used structuring techniques. Simple structure, more complex or monolithic structure, layered structure, microkernel structure, modular approach, and hybrid structure. Many early operating systems don't have well-defined structure. These operating systems started as simple and small projects, but later became commercial success. MS-DOS is an example of such an operating system. This operating system was written for Intel 8088 microprocessor and was limited in functionality due to the hardware capabilities. One such limitation is the size of the storage space. System could access only 1 megabyte of memory allocated both for application and operating system. Consequently, MS-DOS was written to provide most of the functionality in this limited amount of space. This figure presents the structure of the MS-DOS operating system. The bottommost layer is the hardware layer. This layer contains the physical hardware devices and components and ROM BIOS device drivers. Above this module, there is MS-DOS device drivers module, and above this module there is resident system program module. These two modules, resident system program module and MS-DOS device drivers module, make up the operating system. And above the operating system there are application programs. At first it seems that MS-DOS has followed a modular and layered approach to design operating system. However, careful examination of this figure will reveal that modules are not well separated and protected from each other. For example, application program, they can directly access the hardware components. They can directly access the I/O devices and they are able to read or write to I/O devices. And this is obviously not desirable in any reliable and secure operating system. Because if application program fails, it will fail the entire system. Likewise, there is no protection provided between operating system and application program. Operating system is vulnerable to malicious application programs. A malicious application program can read and modify the operating system. These limitations are the direct result of underlying hardware. Because MS-DOS was written for Intel 8088 microprocessor, and this microprocessor provided no hardware mechanism or support to ensure protection from application programs or to ensure protection between operating system and application programs. This microprocessor didn't have dual mode operation. Hence, the operating system designers have no choice but to leave the hardware open for application programs. Despite these limitations of MS-DOS operating system, this operating system was simple, compact, and efficient. Unix is another example of an operating system that has limited structure. The original Unix consists of two different parts: system program part and the kernel part. Everything between the system call interface and above the physical hardware components is the kernel. Kernel component is composed of various services like CPU scheduling, page replacement, demand paging, virtual memory, file system, swapping block I/O system, disk and tape drives, signals terminal handling, character I/O system, and terminal drivers. So a lot of functionality has been added at one place. Below the kernel, there is hardware layer. It contains physical hardware devices, and above the kernel there is system program layer, which contains shell and command interpreters, compilers, system libraries, and above the system program layer there are application programs or users. So as we see that a lot of functionality has been added at one level, at the level of kernel. So it makes operating system very large. The size of the operating system will grow enormously, and consequently it would be difficult to maintain such an operating system. It is a challenge to debug any error or to add any new functionality in this operating system, because all the functionality has been added at the same address space, and it is interrelated to one another, so changing one thing will affect all the system. For example, if one wants to change the CPU scheduling algorithm, he has to touch the whole kernel part. It will affect all the other components in the kernel like file system or virtual memory, disk and tape drives, signal terminals, etc. Similarly, if one component of the kernel fails, it will fail the whole system. For example, if file system crashes, the operating system will crash. Again, for the same reason, because all of the functionality has been added in the same address space. Moreover, there is no security between the various kernel services. Any kernel service can access any other kernel service. Like file system can access CPU scheduling, or it can access page replacement, or virtual memory, or file system may access character IO system. Despite these limitations, task execution or application execution is faster in Unix environment because there is minimum overhead in system call interface as well as in communication among different services of the kernel. So due to this reason, user program execution is much faster. In layered approach, operating system is divided into a number of layers or levels. Operating system services and functionality is spread onto different layers. As you can see in this figure, the system has been broken into different layers. The innermost layer, or the layer 0, is the hardware layer, whereas layer N is the user interface layer. Everything in between the layer 0 and the layer N is the operating system. The layers are designed such that each layer uses functions and services of only lower layers. The main advantage of this approach is increased modularity. This modularity results into simplification of operating system construction, maintenance, and debugging. For example, operating system developers can start defining the functions of layer 1 and consequently implementing these functions and services. As layer 1 will use only the layer 0 functions, so it is quite easier to implement the layer 1 by making use of the hardware functions. Once this layer has been implemented, programmers can move on to the next layer. They can start implementing the layer 2. Layer 2 will use the services of layer 1 only. And so on, the operating system designers can design the rest of the operating system. Debugging is also easier in this approach. For example, if during debugging process errors have been found on a particular layer, then only this layer needs to be examined for the errors because lower layers have already been debugged. In layered approach, protection is also ensured among operating system services and functions. Because a layer can only communicate with lower layer through well-defined interfaces, it need not to know anything about the data and the operations of the lower layer, that how that layer has been implemented. The data and the operations of the lower layer are hidden behind these interfaces. A major challenge to this approach is how to define layers. Careful planning is required to determine the correct functionality of each layer. For example, Backing store drivers must be implemented at a layer below the memory management layer, because memory management layer needs to access the backing store for virtual memory. So backing store drivers must be implemented below the memory management layer. Another challenge to this scheme is reduced performance. System suffers from inefficiency. For example, if user application at layer N issues an IO call, then the system call will be trapped to the IO layer, which is below the user interface layer. This IO layer will call the next layer, that is the memory management layer. That will call the CPU scheduling layer, and CPU scheduling layer will in turn call the hardware layer to access that particular IO device. So at each level, parameters are being transferred from one layer to the next layer. This adds overhead to the system call that was issued by the user application. The result is performance of the operating system will be reduced, and it results into a less efficient operating system. Microkernels. As the name hints, the size of the kernel has been reduced. Instead of having one large big kernel as in monolithic approach, microkernel approach removes all non-essential services from the kernel space to the user space. One example of microkernel based operating system is Mac operating system. In Mac operating system, all the non-essential operating system services and components are removed from kernel space to the user space, and communication between these modules happens through message passing. This figure presents the structure of the microkernel system. Kernel contains only the essential components such as CPU scheduling, memory management, and inter-process communication, whereas the rest of the operating system services have been implemented in the user mode, like device drivers and file systems. These have been implemented in the user space, and so are the application programs that are also implemented in the user space. These modules can communicate with one another using messages. The inter-process communication module facilitates these messages between various modules, like application programs and file system are between file system and the device drivers. However, there is a debate that which operating system components are essential and which are non-essential. There is a little consensus over this, that which components are essential or which are non-essential. However, CPU scheduling and memory management, inter-process communication, these have been identified as the typical essential components within the operating system. Benefits of this approach are that it is a lot easier to extend the microkernel. One can add new operating system services and functionalities in the user space without affecting the kernel, and these services can communicate with one another using message passing facility. Moreover, it is easier to port operating system to the new hardware architectures. And if any changes are required, then these changes will be few in the kernel. Moreover, this is a reliable approach. It increases the system reliability. For example, if user application fails, it will not crash the entire operating system. And so on. If one operating system component fails, it will not affect the operation of other services. And this is also a secure approach because most of the operating system services are running in the user space as well as applications are running in user space, so obviously protection and security has been automatically provided. The only drawback of this scheme is performance overhead because modules can communicate with one another using kernel interprocess communication facility. So all the messages have to be exchanged with the help of kernel, and it involves mode switch. Whenever a message has to be passed from one module to the other module, kernel will be involved. So it will decrease the performance of the system. In this approach, each operating system service is implemented as a distinct module. These modules are loaded into the kernel either at boot time, or these modules are dynamically linked into the kernel when requested. These modules have clearly defined interfaces and thus protected from the other modules. Modules can talk to each other through these well-defined interfaces. This scheme is similar to the layered structure. As we have seen in layered structure, different operating system services are implemented into distinct layers. Similarly, in this approach, different operating system services have been implemented as distinct modules. However, this approach is more flexible as compared to the layered structure because in this approach, any module can talk to any other module, whereas in layered structure, a layer can talk only to the layer below it. The example of these operating systems include Linux and Solaris operating system. This scheme is also similar to the microkernel approach because core kernel will contain only essential operating system services, whereas rest of the operating system services are implemented into modules, and these modules are added to the kernel when required or either at boot time. However, this approach is more efficient as compared to the microkernel because in microkernel approach, messages between modules are exchanged with the help of kernel, whereas in this approach, modules can talk to each other directly. As these modules are already loaded into the kernel, so there are no message passing between these modules. Modules can directly exchange messages with each other. Presents the Solaris structure. It contains the core Solaris kernel that will implement the core operating system services. The rest of the services are linked to the kernel either at boot time or are dynamically linked when required. These services include file system, loadable system calls, executable formats, stream modules, miscellaneous module, device and bus drivers, and scheduling classes. Hybrid systems. Modern day operating systems don't follow one typical structure. Rather, these operating systems have been implemented using a variety of approaches in order to address the performance, security, and usability issues. Linux and Solaris are the examples of the hybrid operating systems. These operating systems implement the kernel and the kernel address space. Most of the operating system services are available in the kernel address space, so largely these operating system follows the monolithic architecture. Moreover, these operating systems are also modular in nature because few operating system services can be dynamically added to the operating system. For example, in Solaris, CPU scheduling information can be linked dynamically. Another example of the hybrid operating system is the Windows operating system, that is largely monolithic in nature. For performance reason, most of the operating system services are provided in the kernel space. Moreover, Windows also observe the microkernel architecture because different operating system services have been provided in the user address space in the form of personalities or subsystems. Other examples of the hybrid operating system include Apple Mac OS X, iOS operating system, and Android operating system. The last two of these operating systems are used on cell phone devices.